Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani with America's Mayor Live and live from Palm Beach, Florida, the heart of free America. So, President is going to impose 25% tariffs on cars. And we were just talking about that on the Rudy Giuliani show. And we were pointing out that in all of the hysteria about tariffs with the left wing, actually, it's the Wall Street Journal more than anybody else making it into a very, very negative type economic point. The reality is that, please take that all with a grain of salt. Let me just point out to you about this 25% automobile tariff. It's not in effect yet. So it can't possibly have cost us anything, right? It hasn't cost us anything yet. It might, starting April 2nd. But since it was announced, I count about 8 new car factories going to be built in America that I've read about. And I haven't called the administration and asked them for an accounting. Maybe we should get one. So, Ted, we can do this more scientifically or more accurately. But so far, for all of the crying and the excess and the 25% tariff on foreign cars, whatever we're going to lose, we're going to already come into it with a plus balance. What we're gaining from the 5,000, 6,000, maybe 10,000 new jobs right up front. Now, over a course of time, will it also lead to more of them moving here? And we get back our robust car industry. Wow. Looks like in Michigan, they made the right choice, huh? The people in Michigan made the right choice. They got rid of the people who destroyed the car industry, and they brought in a guy who's going to rebuild it.
Oh, yeah. And that was one of the most common refrains on the campaign trail. And we brought a lot of the auto workers for Trump up. A lot of the events were centered around
he's coming through for him.
Exactly. Well, he listened, right? He listened. He gave them the time of day, heard what they had to say, and won them over.
Now, this one, he says, so the 25% tariff in general, he's going to do a lot of negotiating with, meaning a lot of exemptions, exceptions. Because the Wall Street Journal has conditioned this, and a lot of people in the market and a lot of people in economics honestly don't know what they're talking about. They work on fictions and Marxism and Keynesian economics, and they don't even know what it is. The reality is that quick, just top of the head analysis, since they hardly have gone into effect, right now it's all on the plus side. I mean, we've gotten tremendous investments. We've gotten the biggest Taiwanese chip company to establish at least 4, maybe 5 different factories, 3 of them in Arizona, and then 2 others around the country. And theoretically, it's only the beginning. Now, you're not going to feel the impact of it today because the factory isn't built until a year from now. But isn't that the way it is? I mean, Reagan, it took a year and a half. I think this is going to take less. But the hysterical argument against tariffs is affecting the market because the market doesn't react to facts. The market reacts to rumors, which is why it is not a great gauge of our economy and why it changes so much. I mean, the other day it went way up. It had been gone down.
Well, and it's better if we look at Main Street, whenever these factories go up, a lot of the local housing stock is in much higher demand. A lot of the local businesses do much better, the local contractors. And it's an investor's world when it comes to the U.S. right now.
I think that's absolutely true. So, Kristi Noem. Now, Kristi Noem made a trip to CCOT. You better get to know what CCOT is. CCOT is the place that judges don't want the rapists the murderers, the perverts, the people who burn up your car. They want to keep them here in the United States. In fact, they don't want to keep them here in the United States so bad they want to bring them back. Like Judge Blasberg and Judge Millett, and aren't they wacky? So CCOT is the Terrorism Confinement Center, and it's in El Salvador. And right now it's holding 250 members of Tren de Aragua and MS-13. Two of them are from New York. Both of them raped minor children. But Judge Blasberg wants them back. He wants them back in America. And then a lot of them have real trouble with detaining them. You're going to say, "Oh, they wouldn't let them out on the street." Well, they were out on the street. You got to back up. So Christie went down there and had the guts to face them. There they are. There are the people the judges want back in the United States. Who knows how many women they violated? They specialize in violating women and children. The MS-13 specializes in chopping your head off. But she was there to meet with them and to express her appreciation that they're going to take these animals. And also, we had Bernie Kerik on last night, who is an expert on corrections, has run probably the most complicated jail in the world, to the point where he was lauded as having done the best job ever of anyone. And he said, yeah, sure, they're treated strictly, but they're kept under very strict control, because if they don't, they'll start killing each other. Now, I'm going to tell you, I know that from personal experience, because I moved all the Mariolitos into the Atlanta penitentiary. And in the first couple of weeks, we had 8 murders. And we didn't understand exactly, since we had, Castro didn't send them with records that they were criminally insane, or he didn't tell us what we learned about their problem with submissive and aggressive homosexuals. You understand that for a period of time, Castro put homosexuals, which what they were called then, in jail. Oh, Hollywood loved him. Hollywood loved him. He also, his first reaction to AIDS was for 3 years to put him in jail. So he sent a lot of these people to the United States. Not the AIDS people, it was before that, but the people from the institutions for the criminally insane. And they were killing each other. If you didn't know either their sexual proclivities or the gangs they were members of, until you learned that, you had a lot of murders. Because on site, they would kill each other. Eventually, the warden got it down and, to a certain extent, civilized them. Because the Bureau of Prisons at that time was just a great institution under Norman Carlson. And, but I had seen lots of prisons at that point, and I had never seen anything like this. Wasn't like an American prison. This was like, it was like going to the zoo, a bad zoo. Yelling, screaming, throwing feces. And this is, it's ridiculous when you listen to these liberal judges talk about this. I'm listening to this Millett creature judge who says, well, I mean, if you could just throw these people out for being members of Tren de Aragua, you all could come to me and say I'm a member of Tren de Aragua and throw me out. Yeah, dope, if you're not a citizen. Why the hell would we want to throw you out if you weren't? We got so many to throw out, we want to make a mistake? Believe me, it's not hard to figure out who they are. First of all, they wear tattoos, sweetheart. Did you see the guys there with the shirts off? You can't find skin. One tattoo after another. Some of these gangs, they put tattoos on for their murders. You know, like football players do for touchdowns. When Trump says they're animals, he is not exaggerating. The two from New York or the six from Boston, who seem to have specialized in young teenage children. I'm sorry, you attack a 14-year-old, you're not an animal? You're going to get angry at me for calling that person an animal? Well, get angry at me. I'm glad that the secretary went down there and looked it over for herself. I think what she's going to find is a very tough prison, but not a prison where people are beaten, tortured. They're under very strict control because they are a danger to everybody around them and themselves. And something has to be done with them. I mean, you go into a prison like that and you start to think that there's a hell of an argument for capital punishment, but, you know, that has its own issues. The other day, this should be pointed out, really. The other day, there was a demonstration against Andrew Cuomo by the families who lost loved ones as a result of his deliberate actions. And it's been pointed out by these families who do research on this that he's absolutely lying when he says he followed the federal directive, because he followed the federal directive did not in any way require him to put these people into nursing homes. You know what required him to do it? His big fundraisers leaning on him. Nursing home industry, one of his biggest fundraisers, and telling him, come on, we want the money too. That's what did it. That's what a scoundrel is. And my brainwashed people in New York, he's their favorite for mayor. You know, you've put such people in the office of mayor since I left, and it's an embarrassment sometimes. Like to say I held the same office as Communist de Blasio. Wow. 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 The wife, how much did she run off with? You know, the minute Bloomberg left, the Democrats came back and said, crooked time again. Now we go back to normal time, like for the last 170 years. This is when we can steal, we can get kickbacks for judgeships, we can start working out deals with the judges, we can put all our political cronies into the judgeships because we control it like it's a communist dictatorship. We can shake everybody down in business, and we can start making a fortune. And then we'll just keep raising everything, because the higher it is, the more room there is for graft. So you wonder why the New York budget is, New York state budget is 2.5 times Florida. It's because there's 2.5 times more graft. You need room for that. It's why Elon Musk is going to find out that there is some waste and there is some abuse, but it's mostly fraud. The same thing happens in the federal government. Whenever you see these, I just like to tell people this, you know, there was one of those, I've forgotten the country because they got the country wrong, but it was a country where we spent 80 million or something on condoms, to send them condoms. Nobody ever saw a condom in those countries. When you see things for absurd things like that, that goes to an NGO, and they pretend they buy condoms.
Well, they write flowery statements about the good work they're doing.
Congressman, thank you for helping us with it. We'll give it to you through your guy on K Street. I always wondered why Biden had to use his son as a bag man when there were so many bums around Washington that would do it for him. Well,
son needed a job.
He's a father. He didn't give a shit about his son. I mean, mafia guys sometimes wouldn't do that. So the federal regulation, if he had even read it, required, for example, that any nursing home that you should put a person in who has COVID or is suspected having COVID, that nursing home has to have a separate wing. He never did that. He never attempted to make sure or to require them to have a separate wing, and they didn't have a separate wing. So they just stuck them in. They just stuck them in.
I'm not even hungry.
And they became like killers, just like the Chinese did. Andrew'd be very comfortable, probably working the program for China where they were sending people in to kill people. Because not only did he put them in the wrong place, he followed none of the guidelines should you put them there, like setting up a separate wing, keeping them very segregated, making sure, actually, if they're infected, not to take them. But if they do get COVID, that's what you have to do. Also, in the middle of it all, the National Organization of Nursing Home Medical Directors issued a statement calling New York's policy overreaching, not consistent with science, and beyond all, not in the least consistent with patient safety principles, and he continued it. What do you need to know to realize that he's just going to be another crooked, dishonest Democrat mayor? I mean, the fact that that's what he was as a governor is not enough. Writing a book on using Mayor Koch set the rules for how you write a book as a mayor. And he'd be turning over his grave now if he thought Andrew Cuomo was going to be mayor. Andrew Cuomo, who he always suspected was the source of, are you for Cuomo or the homo? When I would tell him there's no proof that it was Andrew, he would say I was being naive. And he would say, watch that guy. Well, we watch him, and Koch turns out to be right. Yes, Dr. Maria.
Mayor, didn't Andrew Cuomo as governor, isn't he the reason for a bill that he pushed about letting criminals out?
Oh my goodness, he's responsible for all of it. Yeah. He signed the bail bill. The bail bill is the one where, like those two rapists that ICE had to pick up on the street and send off to El Salvador, they were out free in New York. There were probably 8,000, 10,000 serious criminals on the street because of him. He also did another thing that's equally as dangerous. He required prosecutors to turn over their discovery in like 30 days or 60 days. And prosecutors say that has resulted in about 20 to 30% more people, dangerous criminals, going free. He passed that. And finally, he changed the rules for parole. And this is the one for which he shouldn't even be allowed to be nominated. There were 42 cop killers walking around the street since he passed that law. In other words, they were sentenced to life in prison. And based on his changes in parole, the cop killers are now free. One is about to come out in 2 weeks. 42. I mean, that's a lot of cop killers to put out on the street. Now, any police organization that supports him, the people who run that organization are probably crooked. So I don't know who you have as a choice. I mean, I'll tell you that, and it becomes strange for me that Adams is better than the rest of them. we go from Cuomo with this awful record of dishonesty and sneakiness and crookedness, and kind of like Schumer, nobody likes him. And then the other guy we got is this guy from Queens who's a terrorist and an anti-Semite, and I mean, he'd be like the mayor of London. The mayor of London had a big Ramadan celebration, telling people what a peaceful, wonderful holiday Ramadan is. Now, I imagine it is. I read the Quran. I don't remember Ramadan all that well. The thing I remember about Ramadan mostly, though, is reading for the last 20 years in the newspaper, every time it starts and every time it finishes, to be very careful because there's a lot of killings at the end or the beginning of Ramadan, both. And it seems rather strange because I never remember reading that about Easter or Christmas or the high holy days. I don't remember, like, I have to be worried about a lot of killings on Yom Kippur. But on Ramadan, I got to be worried. And I'm telling you, this comes from when I was mayor, and we would get warnings to be really careful. during the holy days of the religion of Muhammad. If you bother to read the Quran and not let the American-hating, Islamic extremist-loving press describe it for you, you'd know what I'm talking about. And you'd also know that this Islamic extremist movement is very long-term, much larger than you think, and rearing its ugly head big time again, since we have an unknown number that the criminal we had as president let in for 4 years. Tulsi Gabbard, I got to correct her. I like Tulsi, but Iranian freedom and the absolute necessity that Iran not be a nuclear power is more important than anything. When she testified and gave a very, very cogent, good, and a completely defensible answer about the chat, for which she bears no responsibility, and she analyzed correctly. She did say during that testimony that, and I'm going to read it, Iran's enriched uranium stockpile has hit unprecedented levels for a state lacking nuclear weapons. But the U.S. intelligence community continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon. Could we fire the American intelligence community? I'd like to know the last time they were right. Were they right when all 51 of those spies who lied said that I was working for Russia and that Trump was? Did anybody in that intelligence community come forward and defend us? Yeah, one. The now head of CIA. If the U.S. intelligence community doesn't think that Iran is building a nuclear weapon, they are really moronic jackasses. Iran is one of the most energy-rich countries in the world. They do not need the peaceful use of nuclear power to have energy like France. France doesn't have any oil. France doesn't have any gas. They have to depend on other countries. They need nuclear power so they can be independent. They don't need nuclear power for peaceful reason. And you don't build up this much uranium for nuclear power. And half the times they say they're not doing it, and half the times they say they are doing it for that reason. And of course, did you ever listen to what they want to do? It's called the Islamic State of Iran because it wants to be an empire. It wants to take over Iraq and Syria. It pretty much had. I mean, it would love to take over that entire northern Middle East as an Islamic empire, a Shiite Islamic empire. That's their desire. How are they going to do that without nuclear weapons? They are dedicated, Tulsi, to the destruction of the state of Israel, correct? Israel has nuclear weapons, we all think, right? How the hell are they going to destroy Israel if they don't have nuclear weapons? So why do you think they have more uranium than any state needs? I don't know if it's stupidity. I don't know what it is. You don't. It would say to me, I'd bring her in and the entire intelligence community, and I'd say that in front of me. Okay, you're all fired. Yeah, you don't change your mind, you're all fired. Because you're too damn, but among other things, you're too damn stupid to be responsible for our intelligence. You can't figure out that Iran has been cheating forever. Every one of even the neutral pro-left-wing, pro-Islamic terrorist groups that go in there and try to inspect, tell you that they're hiding things and lying and that they're not doing this to be a nuclear power? You know, I'll tell you the other thing. Nobody believes you. We just think there's something seriously wrong with you when you say that. There's no serious person, left or right, that believes that that statement and assessment is correct. Why are you doing it? Who's pulling your chain? Continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon. By the way, Israeli intelligence comes to exactly the opposite conclusion. The Post editorial comes to the conclusion the U.S. intel community can deny the obvious, but why is Gabbard, who was supposed to be a skeptic of the establishment, playing mouthpiece for that denial? It's a good question, Tulsi. And Mr. President, my friend, find out the answer. It's important. This is really stupid. That probably has more consequence than all of this stuff they're building up about the chat. Believe me. Take a short break, and we'll be right back. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org.
Yeah.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
These deals are
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely.
We are having a personal discussion we're going to bring you into. It goes back to what I was reporting on before. And I hope it was on this show. It may have been on the earlier show. But what we were talking about was the responsibility of this reporter, who has a history for being a pathological liar, including, and I will tell you personally about me. So I don't have, I am not without my prejudices on this son of a bitch. But the question is, he's an American, I assume. And he finds out that there's a leak, right, in a very important security chain about something that at the very beginning, maybe you don't know exactly what it's about, but pretty clear that they're talking about the possibility of attacking Yemen and the Houthis, which is all over the news anyway. Why is he any different than any other American citizen? Doesn't he have an obligation to protect all of us? Suppose somebody else got into this and not just him. The fact that he got into it could mean that one of the enemy got into it, and they're going to know about this and kill our troops beforehand. Doesn't he have an obligation to call them and tell them, you got a problem, guys?
Mayor, don't you think he certainly would have if this happened under the Biden administration?
Mhm. Yeah, he would have called right away to warn them.
Right. So when Democrats try to tell us, you guys are trying to make this into not a big deal, and they say, what if this was Biden? This wouldn't have happened under Biden.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. This guy is a sleazy reporter, and maybe he doesn't have any loyalties, and I think I could see him keeping it under Biden as well.
To make it, I see what you're saying. To
Well,
make a
you know,
name for
I've
himself.
exposed him.
Yeah, I just don't think so.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
I
wanted to
don't.
make this the Goldberg show.
Sure, there's that element, but we know from his track record, this is an individual who has had a Democrat Party leaning.
I mean, that's a good.
Additional reason
He
to.
could have played it a little different. I bet with Biden, he would have made him seem like some kind of hero, right? Like, oh, I got these leaked things.
Oh.
He's a patriot.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it depend on when? If it was the Biden they wanted to get rid of, he would have done exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
You're right.
If it was the Biden who was the only hope against Trump, he would have covered
Right.
it up.
That's right. That's
I mean,
4D chess here. You're right.
All the horse, they did the same
They
thing.
did. They shipped.
What
They
happened a week before? Something I've
Well,
not kept up on this.
How did he find out about it? March 15th. March
15th.
No, 15th is when it happened.
But
a week before
something happened, he
before
was
that
on
is
the
when he
list.
got an invitation
That's it.
from Walz to join the chat, the private chat.
And do we know if it was Waltz or was his assistant?
It was one of his assistants,
But it was his phone,
but it was his phone.
and he's taking responsibility.
He's taking
He's not
responsibility for it. He
his
said,
credit.
But could the assistant have set him up?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Well,
Could have.
At
at
one
face
point-
value, Waltz is saying that guy wasn't in his contacts.
Which I don't know. I mean, if he's telling the truth, he's telling the
They
truth. That
say
just
he
seems
wasn't
impossible.
in
I
his
know.
contacts, but he had to be in. Now, this is again my understanding of Signal, what I've read. It had to be in somebody's contacts in the chain.
Right.
Otherwise, it would have jumped out
Right now.
as a warning.
Right.
Because in order to get on, however they set this up, you have to be
Invited.
invited,
Right.
or you have to be familiar to one of the
Chat
chat
rooms.
chatters, right?
I know.
So if he wasn't
yeah.
on his chain, he was on some. I won't mention names, but I mean this. It involved all the people we're thinking of.
Yeah.
So it had to be on somebody's chain.
Yes.
Now, I read that. I also read that not necessarily true.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a way to get around it.
Yeah.
The ability to hack around these things is beyond.
That's
our
what I was
comprehension.
wondering too. I thought about hacking. I thought about assistance.
Could he put
I
himself in?
They say in those departments, there's still lots of people who are really left wing.
Right.
Just because you remove the top, that
Right.
maybe all along that guy
Mhm.
from Politico was getting information all along. So it's a normal thing for them to add him.
I don't think he
I
would.
don't know.
I-
I don't
Give
know.
it. Given the
I'm
fact.
guessing, of
I'll
course.
tell you what. Given the fact that he eventually gave it up, he probably wasn't getting information for a long time because he would not have given up the source.
Mm.
It wasn't good enough in the sense that
Yeah.
everything went right.
Yeah.
I don't think you could have anticipated it was going to blow up this much. Usually, what happens with a mistake that results in nothing is you ignore it. It's a shame because you should look at those and learn from them.
Yeah, I think the American people would respect some of our people a little bit more if they said, this is devastating that a person that we did not want on the group, we only wanted X, Y, and Z represented. And we're devastated over this, and we're going to find out how it happened, and we're going to secure things in the future. I haven't really heard anybody say it that boldly. I watched the congressional hearing, and Tulsi Gabbard was like afraid to even admit she was within the chat.
Yeah. You're right. And part of that probably is, a new administration. And when you have the legacy media and these Democrats nonstop on this issue, right? They're all
Yeah.
probably they are in a way protecting themselves.
Yeah.
and
They also immediately began an attack on him,
On
but it
Trump.
wasn't a fine-tuned attack.
Right.
It was just a general attack. So you're saying, well, you're attacking the guy who found out about your leak, but you're not plugging up your leak. What they should have attacked him for is being a disloyal American and not warning them of the leak.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, so he put ahead of the leak, trying to get as much news as
A
he could get,
story. Yeah.
Right.
which could have led to the
It-
destruction and death. He's like the guy watching, 10 people get killed, and he's taking his
Oh, yeah.
he's
It's
taking
video
he's
camera or
taking his
whatever,
video
yeah.
so that he can have the best video of it and make
Yeah.
$10 million.
Didn't he think if he was inadvertently added, maybe somebody else was inadvertently added?
That is
Yeah.
exactly what I'm saying.
Right.
He also claims I didn't know what it was. Bullshit.
Yeah. He said, "Oh, it
Bullshit.
was real. I didn't know if it was
I
real."
thought I was being set up. That's another good reason why he would have called up,
Right.
to
Yeah.
protect himself.
Right.
So if I thought I was being, actually there was a point at which Jay and I thought we were being set up by Mueller.
Jay Sekulow.
Yeah. First thing we did is report it to the Justice Department.
Smart. And
We
Probably
I
they
put it
were
all
trying to
together,
set it up,
and I
to be
asked for a personal visit with the Justice Department, and I asked that Mueller be there. And Mueller, of course, couldn't be there because Mueller couldn't walk out of his house. He was so out of it.
He
But
too
Mueller's
was
assistant
suffering
was
from
there.
dementia.
Oh God, yeah, I knew that before.
remember that?
I knew
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I knew that when I used to, after I met him, and for a year I never saw him again. And every time I'd call up, his first assistant would say, "We'll bring it to Bob," and I would say, "Cut the bullshit. You're not going to bring it to
No,
Bob."
Weissman was running that.
I
whole
used to
thing.
call him. The Wizard of Oz. He was behind the thing there. But this was like a really tense moment, and it really did look like we're being set up. We weren't, but it looked that way. And Jay and I and Jane sat together and said, "Okay, we got nothing to hide. We're going to call him up."
Shades on. I like that little wrinkle in the bottom.
And we weren't, but it was a very, very telling leak of their barbaric and completely un-American ways in which they treated people. It was a person complaining about how he had been abused by them.
Right.
And an older man, seriously abused by Weissman and him and others.
They destroyed his reputation.
And we thought that we were being set up, that they gave us this, and we were going to go leak it like they do. And then they were going to, that's what we thought they were doing. Actually, it was the man communicating with us, really communicating with us.
Right.
But that also got covered up like everything else,
Yeah.
Right.
which is why I'm cynical about all of this. But I really do think this guy proved that he's another one of the American haters.
Yeah.
Because as a good American, if you think your Defense Department and your White House are being compromised, you report it.
Mm.
Because as Ted said, there could be 10 of the Chinese could be listening.
Yeah.
He didn't give a damn. What we
Right.
cared about was, let me get my story and let me see if I can paint this in the word. And plus, when you look at the actual text, war plans were given out. They didn't give out any war plans. They did 2 hours before the attack took place, put out some information, some words that if you knew what you're doing, you could probably figure it out. You could have a debate as to whether or not that was enough, but it wasn't like a complete. It made it sound like they were describing, the number of bombs, the actual drones, how they were going to come over, what they were going to do. That's the way he made it sound.
Yep.
And he kept it back. Yep. And then when he put it out, it's like, if anything, a very, very abbreviated version that might or might not warn you,
right,
but enough so that, in fairness, a wise person would have classified it.
Mm.
Right.
There was something wrong with not classifying it.
I understand that everybody's
And it shouldn't have
mobile.
been- and it shouldn't have been on the telephone.
Right. Right. Not like that in writing. Like if you wanted everybody's opinion or just to inform them, aren't there secure phones for a conference call? I don't know.
Yeah.
You would think we have that technology.
They would require a certain amount of dislocation But there was no time element here. This isn't, I mean, look, you cannot use open media, open sources for anything that is war related but let's take it, let's say we see a bunch of terrorists heading down to Miami, and we have to warn and we have to warn. We can use anything to do it.
Yeah.
Is what if it's an emergency, all the rules.
Yeah. Of course.
This wasn't an emergency.
Right.
This was going to take place a week later. They were arguing about putting it off by a month.
So the context of this, and this is a question mark, because again, I have not seen the text, and was really just running things by each other or notifying.
Trying to decide whether to do it now or in a month.
Okay.
So
Jesus, you would think that needs a presentation of what's going on, the back.
that already happened.
Oh, I see. Okay.
They were referring back to presentations that had been made, and ultimately Stephen Miller ends the whole thing by basically saying, and I'm interpreting now myself, but Stephen Miller basically says, "Hey guys, the president really decided this already, so stop the bullshit."
Now, is there
Stephen Miller said, the boss has been very clear.
Yeah, he looks good in that.
Like they're arguing, Vance and a few others are arguing, we don't want to do this because this has to do with the Suez Canal, and Europe uses the Suez Canal 60%, and we only use it 3%. Why the hell are we doing this for Europe again?
Right.
And anyway, we shouldn't do it now. We should put it off. Hegseth had already prepared his mission, obviously based on earlier meetings. And Hegseth is saying, let's go ahead now. And Waltz, let's go ahead now. Apparently, the president had already told him he wanted to do that. So they're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And in the middle of it, you see SM comes in, which we all believe is Stephen Miller.
Yeah.
And Stephen Miller says, and of course, you don't hear them. You just see what they wrote, so you don't know the expression.
Yeah.
But I'm going to interpret my own way.
Yeah.
He basically says, come on, I know him better than all of you, and you know what he decided.
Yeah.
So cut the shit.
He looks great.
Let's go ahead and just plan this.
He should send Goldberg a thank you.
He's saying sort of like, we can take it to the boss, but you know what he's going to do.
Yeah. And that kind of ended the.
And then they all say, and then all of a sudden Vance starts saying, yeah, well, I'll go. Yeah, okay. All right. Go, let's go. Yeah, all right. And Pete does a tremendous analysis of it.
He does.
I mean, if you're trying to grade them on their knowledge and ability and strategy, it's A+.
Right.
I mean, one of the things that comes out of it is they're a very competent group of people.
Right.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could have
And
been worse.
It
It could have been worse.
You want them to do this.
Yes.
Except you don't want them to do it openly.
Yeah.
On a commercial
Yeah.
messaging
Yeah,
app.
back
Want them
to
to fight like this.
Yeah.
back to form though. So, is there a device suitable for this type of?
Yes.
Yeah.
The military has its own
So
network.
100%.
It would
Yes.
be like a satellite phone of some
It's
kind.
a network.
or-
It's a
I'm
secure.
not
The
gonna
military.
tell you.
Yeah.
But-
He knows. You
I'm
know.
going to tell you the best way to do it. The best way to do it is to go into a skiff
Which they all have.
and to communicate from a skiff.
Which they all have.
And most of them have it, if not all of them, in their homes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And again, this might be more excusable if it just had just come up in the middle of the night and they were all different places and they had to communicate like that. If you're talking about putting something off by a month, you have enough time to go to a skiff.
Right. No, I agree with you. Yeah.
But what if you don't have that time?
They have a network. The
Then it
military.
wouldn't be a violation of any kind, or
Yeah, because there's
it wouldn't be unwise. It would be if they just had found out that the Houthis are bringing some kind of massive bomb to Israel and we got to act in 20 minutes.
I'm calling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
you use any
Yeah.
yell out.
Yeah.
Yell it out.
Yell across the room.
People used to ask me, I've studied data privacy a little bit, and they would say, what apps do you use? And I was like, if you want it to be really safe, you got to use Messenger Boy.
Yeah, that's
They're
true.
like, oh, Messenger Boy, is that some like
That-
new open source thing? It's like, no, you got to like give it to a guy and have him run it over to the other guy.
The worst part of it is
Courier.
I know
Yeah.
the
Pigeons.
president. The president, of course, was being a really truly good leader by not showing any of his emotions or any of his feelings during the
Fall
conference.
out of it.
Yeah.
Although it did come across at the end, and he said it nicely, but I can't imagine him private he did. He said, well, he basically was saying, I never use those things.
Yeah. Yeah. But he
The
doesn't.
only secure conversation is in person.
Yeah.
And I know that to be true.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's very restrained.
like
with that.
Mueller couldn't understand how he had no emails.
Yeah.
He thought we destroyed them.
Yeah.
He doesn't do emails.
Right.
I've known him forever. The only emails I've ever done with him have to do with scheduling. That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
To remind him of something.
Well, here's his
If I sent him an email about a substantive project, he would yell at me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, here's what the president had to say. He was asked about it in the Oval Office yesterday.
How do you bring Hegseth?
Should Secretary Hegseth consider his position? Should Secretary Hegseth consider his position for the signal?
Hegseth is doing a great job. He had nothing to do with this.
That was Pete.
How do you bring Hegseth into it? He had nothing to do. Look, it's all a witch hunt. Here we are talking about some of the greatest business deals ever made. The greatest companies in the world are moving into the United States, and you want to ask about whether or not Signal works. I don't know that Signal works. I think Signal could be defective, to be honest with you. And I think that's what we have to, because you use Signal, and we use Signal, and everybody uses Signal, but it could be a defective platform, and we're going to have to find that out.
Maybe we should develop one of our own.
I didn't catch that end there. I didn't know. That's the first time I heard that little ending.
You know, we do have one of our own.
Yes, the military has.
We have. There are devices that could have been used, short of a skiff, that would have been better
on a secure network. It's the military.
And I'm sorry, I don't know who owns Signal, but I've never used it.
Yeah.
People have wanted me to use it.
Yeah.
I know too much about it. I was in the security business. Wouldn't use Signal.
And Tucker's Signal got hacked when he was.
It's a commercial messaging app. It's a commercial app.
Yeah, but everyone says, "Oh, you have to get Signal to communicate with me," so I have it.
Who is it? A little harder?
I think. Well, they can.
Yeah. I mean, if you want like a certain degree of protection against an amateurish,
exactly.
Hacker, it gives you a little more protection. I don't know if it gives you much more protection than Apple does. I mean, Apple has
right.
This goes back a while. I've been out of the business for a while. But a lot of this stuff where you pay for extra encoding, Apple already has it.
Well, Signal's free, right?
Yeah, and but now this was a while ago, but I think the UK government forced Apple to give them the backdoor.
Did they force them to, or did they refuse to do it?
I think they caved. But let's table that because that's not.
Yeah, let's make sure. Let's table that because that's a very, very tough question. I mean, that's not an easy question to answer either. In terms of national security, it becomes a more difficult question when you realize how corrupt these governments have become. But at one time, I would have told you they should
recognize the UK now.
Right.
At one time, but the UK now puts you in jail for bad thoughts.
Exactly.
Which is like,
it's
but
scary.
I mean, 20 years ago, I would have told you that the government should have a right. I would trust the government, Democrat or Republican, to do that. Now I don't trust the government to do anything.
I was the same way. Years ago, I would have said, no, there's too many good people. Things like that won't happen.
Well, I was very much in favor of the Patriot Act.
Yeah.
And a lot of people warning me about it. Now,
it's a slippery slope. Yeah.
Now I really wonder if that was wise or.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't think it was. Look how they made. Look how they distorted it.
Yeah.
My only point there, Mayor, is that we vowed never again, and to this point, it hasn't happened. So
what hasn't happened?
Another 9/11.
Oh,
that's my only. To push back. To like.
No. I agree with you, but right now it's purely luck.
Yeah. An update on the UK situation too. So the UK government did demand that Apple create a backdoor, but rather than doing it, they just decided to stop offering secure services to UK residents. So now
that's much better.
Yeah,
good.
That's actually
that turned out to be the right decision.
Sensible.
Because I mean, people should realize you're not going to get perfect protection.
Yeah.
You can increase the barriers, but you're not going to get perfect protection. Yeah. It's like getting perfect protection against illegal entry to your house. If a determined, you can put all the locks on you want.
Right.
If a determined guy wants to get in, it just blows open the door.
Yeah.
But if you have a lock, you're going to deter a lot of lesser.
Right.
I mean, it's much better to lock your door than not, because a lot of lesser people For example, it was very effective to stop the theft of radios in cars, just to put a little sign on there saying you didn't have a radio. Because the guy wanted to get a certain number of radios per night. And he didn't want to take the time to find out if you really had a radio or not by opening your door. So he'd move on to the next car. So any barrier you can put in the way of a criminal or a spy could help. But it's not 100%.
Right.
And there are certain things where you need 100%. And honestly, when you're talking about war, even if you're talking about it in a careful way, you should not be doing it on anything that somebody can get on.
Especially when you're still debating things.
They actually didn't go over the line. They used like careful enough general language, but they could easily have gone over the line. So tariffs, I mean, right now, I got to get somebody to do this for me because I'm not sure I know how to do this. I want to add up all the money we've made so far on tariffs because we haven't lost any yet because he hasn't imposed any yet.
That's funny.
The market is going down and down and down because the Wall Street Journal is telling them to go down.
Oh, God.
It's ridiculous. Today, they're attacking them for a tariff that has brought 7 different new automotive factories to the United States.
That's huge.
I'll take that tariff.
That's huge. More jobs for American workers.
Whatever happened to Made in America?
Yeah.
Right.
But even the foreign countries, instead, by avoiding the tariff, they could invest. Yes, it's still a foreign product, but it's going to be American workers and a plant.
They asked the guy from Hyundai. They asked the guy from Hyundai, why are you doing it? He laughed. Because of the tariff.
Yeah.
You're stupid editorial writers. I run a business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
No wonder I make a lot more money than you.
Well, that's the problem with all these critics on the left, right, Mayor? They keep talking about this and analyzing what would happen if all these tariffs took effect instead of analyzing the progress the president is making by simply threatening and negotiating.
Anything. They never had to make a budget.
Yeah, exactly.
They're a bunch of money grows on trees idiots.
Right. Right.
So we ever get is this Ukraine thing ever going to come to an end?
Well, which part of it? The war or the mineral deal?
The war.
Okay, because the mineral deal is almost finalized, I guess. The war.
But how do we get Putin off this? You've got to do away with all the sanctions just for the Black Sea ceasefire. I mean, Trump has to say to him, no way.
Yeah.
Maybe you take away a little sanction because the Black Sea is just a little. You want all the sanctions off.
Yeah.
Then you got to give me a third of the territory back.
Yeah.
And stop killing people.
President Trump is going to have to be tough with Putin.
Yeah. Or how about this? I tell you what, my friend, you know I like you so much. I'm gonna do you a favor. because you got to get this war over. You want me to relax the sanctions if you make the Black Sea deal. I tell you what, if you don't make the Black Sea deal, I'm going to double them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let's see if your pissant economy can survive.
Yeah.
And by the way, the price of oil is going down right now, which means Russia's suffering.
Yeah. Right.
You can do an amateur analysis of the Russian economy simply by the price of oil. It used to be it had to be above like $50 or $60 a barrel. The crude oil had to be above, or they were starting to head toward bankruptcy. When it gets to 100, they're really making a lot of money. And I don't know what it is. See, I'm losing power here.
Yeah, we are in a lot of places, I guess.
Oh, yeah, it's working now. See if you can get me the price of oil for now. We want to know the price of oil because we're going to buy some oil.
Yeah. Current.
Or some of them.
We're at $69.89 for WTI crude. That's West Texas.
Well, that's not a bad price for Russia. I mean, that's not great, but it's not a bad price.
Right. So, Mayor, I guess when the prices rise, when oil prices rise, that benefits Russia, as you said, because it strengthens the ruble. And when it falls, of course, it leads to disaster.
And Trump is a disaster. Trump is a disaster for them because everything he's planning will bring down the cost of oil.
Right.
The more American oil you put on the market, the more the price of oil. The more oil you put on the market, the more the price of oil goes down.
Right.
So America had restricted seriously the oil that it put on the market. I mean, that's why Biden put out all our reserves, keep the price of oil down because the gasoline was going up.
Right.
So I imagine I'm sure that Trump has already restored those reserves.
Yeah. Well, just to go back to put a bow on the signal issue, because you're going to want to know this, Mayor. A group is suing over this. A lawsuit by left-leaning government transparency group American Oversight is asking whether senior cabinet officials violated federal record-keeping laws by using Signal to discuss plans for a military strike on the Houthis in Yemen. Well, guess which judge is overseeing the Signal case?
It's the same guy about that put a block on the illegals going to.
U.S. District Judge James Boasberg on Thursday ordered all parties involved in the Trump administration's leaked Signal chat to preserve disclosed messages, giving him additional time to evaluate the administration's handling of the group chat. This is U.S. District Court Judge James Boasberg, who we, of course, know from the ongoing case involving.
Yeah, he looks like a wackadoodle, too. Why do they always look like that?
What's their standing? How are they injured?
Federal record-keeping laws. You're right. What
they get?
How do they have standing?
The federal
It's a watchdog
record
group, I guess.
Yeah.
Does the federal record-keeping laws give everyone the right to sue? I doubt it.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
So
like
is that
Schumer says they have the courts.
Well, they do. If this guy didn't throw it out for lack of standing, well, I mean, why would he? You know, he's a completely dishonest judge.
Absolutely.
There might be a clause in there that allows.
We're going to look up. We're going to look up the record-keeping laws, and I'm going to say 3 out of 4 chances that there is no private right to sue because the government would be nuts to give everybody. You know how many suits you would have if everybody could sue?
Right.
over federal record?
How many people do we have? 340 million.
And so is that at which point in the case is a judge once a case something like this is filed, the judge is supposed to basically
there are two ultimate barriers to suing, which the courts have very seriously misused against Trump in the 2020 election case. Remember how no standing.
No standing, jurisdiction.
No standing.
Favorite thing.
Lack of jurisdiction is the other one, or
Well, lack of jurisdiction is different. No standing is you're not injured. You're not directly, and it can't be just a general, like you can say, if the government raises taxes, I should be able to sue the government. But then you're just injured like everybody else.
Right.
It has to be a special injury. Like they maintain a faulty.
Well, let's take that apart.
floor.
yeah,
Since
and you
this
fall
is
through.
since this is your wheelhouse. So 18 or 19 states back in 2020,
Yeah,
New
that's
Hampshire
wrong.
included,
100% wrong.
right? Claimed that by allowing all the fraud to continue, of course it's going to harm you because it takes away your right
To
to
choose the
vote.
president.
But then the Supreme Court said we didn't have standing.
Yeah. Supreme Court decided there was no standing, which they were dead wrong. That's how they
I
threw
never
out.
understood that. Of
that's how
course
they-
there's standing.
That's how they threw out all cases.
Yeah.
None of them were thrown out of the merits.
Yeah.
And that's why I went to the state legislatures. 'Cause I knew it was a fix.
That was brilliant, by the
I
way.
remember that.
I knew it was a fix.
Brilliant
I knew.
strategy.
I knew that they were told stay out of the cases because I had never had a case where I asked for a TRO, I didn't get a hearing. What are they afraid of? Why we can't at least get a hearing?
Right. And that's what they always leave out when they say
And they
on
would
vacation.
just say with no analysis, no standing. Of course we had standing. They would disadvantage voters, disadvantage political officials. The president of the United States certainly had standing. He was the person injured. But standing means you have to be actually injured. You just can't be one of 340 million people who gets hurt by the law. You have to have a special injury. And there also has to be a case or controversy, which means they're not going to decide something hypothetical. You can't go to court and say, they passed this law, and in the future, it may hurt me.
Right, right.
It has to hurt you already. Every once in a while, if it's a massive injury that could happen, they'll take it up, but it's
You're
very rare.
confusing me a little bit because you said it has to be specific. Not every state was doing this, only 18 or 19.
Mhm.
And but it could affect much more than those 18 or 19
Yeah,
states.
I mean, what it affects is their right to have a free and fair election.
Right.
And their vote, if you're cheating and I'm not, then you're depriving me of my right to a free and fair election.
Yeah, it makes sense to me, but there was something you said
Yeah.
I got a little confused.
Well, standing is very confusing, and it leaves a lot of room for interpretation and debate. But that one should have happened just based on the fact that it's a very rare. The standing comes right out of the Constitution. It basically says one of the few times you can actually originate a case in the Supreme Court is when a state sues another state. And if a state believes it's injured, the Supreme Court should give deference to that.
Could New Hampshire sue Boston, the city of Boston, maybe even the state of Massachusetts for their illegal aliens? Because that crime spills over into New
I don't know if
Hampshire.
they're doing that, but the counties in Colorado are suing the city of Denver and the state of Colorado.
Good.
For all of the overflow of illegals that have come out of the boy mayor and Feliz Navidad, who have invited all the illegals in. They decided not to stay in Denver, and they've gone to Aurora. And Aurora, which they were covering up, is now part of that lawsuit. Which shows that once again, they're
that
lying
little town, it's a little town, right? Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it is a strange proposition, but it can work both ways. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with a little bit of soccer time, and we're going to find out for Dr. Maria.
The Red Sox one?
Yeah. I'm going to see if she can be happy tonight too. Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans. No Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's Coffee.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50%, and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely.
So you see that guy? Buy his pillows. They're great pillows. Just do mypillows.com/Rudy.
That's right.
And
promo code Rudy.
There are plenty of stuff there to get. And those pillows, I got to tell you, I was without them for a while. And I had a bad neck. So You make sure you buy those. And he's one of our guys. So let's support our people. Let's do what they do.
Right.
You know, the way they all support those stupid Hollywood movies.
Right.
It was nice to see that Snow White
totally bombed.
Or isn't it really Black Witch instead of Snow White?
Right.
Black Witch and the 7 vertically challenged people.
Yeah, like, didn't they end up using computers?
Oh, they were computers.
They didn't even use real
persons
who are vertically challenged. In a way, that's almost a slap in the face to them.
No, when they had movies with, you know, it was a great
exposure
opportunity for work.
Yeah,
for people with disability, with a disability like that.
Gee, it turns out if you call half of America a bunch of racists, they may not go see your movie.
Yeah, right. Disney Disney hasn't had a big movie in years now.
I was just going to say, Mayor, maybe it's because we're older and your kids are older. But in the 90s, you would have probably been exposed to Disney a lot with young kids. And I, of course, being a young kid.
I was exposed to Disney going there with my kids almost every year.
You go to the live theaters or?
No, Disneyland. Oh my God. It drove me crazy. Disneyland. I mean, when I went back to, I went back there then much later to give speeches. When I was speaking for the Washington Speakers Bureau, probably I did more speeches in Orlando than any place.
Oh, wow.
I used to look at the mouse and curse at him. You know, freaking mouse.
That guy.
So you've been to that Orlando Convention Center there?
God, I lived
think
there.
It's the biggest one that I've ever
They
seen.
could name that thing after. They could probably name that thing after.
I think I've probably given 100 speeches.
Is there a bigger convention center?
I don't think
anywhere?
so.
Indianapolis.
You can be in one part of it and not even realize, you know, your best friends in another part of it, or it's gigantic, and it's a great city for conventions. If they would get rid of Disneyland, it would be a terrific city. Put something else there. I don't know.
That's good.
I guess there are still people who really like it, right?
There are people that are, what do they call them? Yeah.
I'd have a fun time at Disney World.
Oh, I'm sure you would. Any of us would.
No, I wouldn't.
Mayor, come on, Mayor. You're not a curmudgeon.
I went there once on a New Year's Day on a lark with Bo and my stepdaughter and her girlfriend, and I did have a good time, but I went on all of the most frightening rides.
Yeah.
Because Bo doesn't like to go on frightening rides.
Did you make him go on?
I used to love to watch Bo because he's so big and strong.
Yeah, we got to get Bo on the show.
I used to love to get Bo. And we went on some kind of ride where you just fall off like this, and he got sick, and we had to bring him for to the first aid. So here are these 2 girls and me bringing Bo, who's twice all of our sizes, to the first aid place. It was really funny, funny in the sense of a joke.
Yeah.
So this case is before Boasberg. So I get confused about these cases. Boasberg has the big Venezuelan case.
Right.
So he has the case where the 250 animals who are massive predators, he wants to bring them back to the U.S. from El Salvador.
Right.
Okay. And then in New York, we have the Khalil case. And Khalil, no, isn't that Boasberg who has the Khalil?
Right.
Who has the Khalil case?
That's what I'm looking at right now.
I think that's in New York. That's in New York, and it's in Louisiana, because they got Khalil down to Louisiana, and then there was an order issued in Louisiana. So there are 2 judges that now have it. And the judge in New York, Judge Furman, has decided that the case belongs in New Jersey. So you essentially, right now, you got 3 courts involved. You've got Judge Furman, who had the original case, but by the time he started to act, the guy was outside of his jurisdiction, and he had been moved to Louisiana. So there's an action brought in Louisiana to stop him from going to back. He's going back. He's not going to prison. He's being sent back and to Venezuela. And And the third one, the third case, and I don't know if it's been sent there yet, but Furman says the case should really be in New Jersey because when it originally started, the guy was in New Jersey. I think he wants to get rid of the case. I don't think he has to give up jurisdiction. So now you got 3 district courts involved. You get 3 different decisions. 2 could say you can't send him out, and 1 could say yes.
So another chapter to the constitutional law books that comes with the Supreme Court.
With the Supreme Court finally recognizing after all of these years that it's unconstitutional for a district judge to issue an order that goes beyond his jurisdiction. What right does he have to tell Louisiana what to do if he's the judge in New York? Nor what right does he have to set the law for the United States? The President of the United States issues an order. The President of the United States was elected by the entire country. He's in one little district. You want to get that change, you got to go to the Supreme Court. I think that Congress is going to pass a very clear statute that makes nationwide injunctions impossible and limits the power of a district court just to its jurisdiction, which is probably the correct interpretation of the Constitution. And if the Congress doesn't do it, the Supreme Court might do it. But think about it. I mean, suppose the judge in New York decides that you can't deport Khalil. Suppose the judge in Louisiana, where he is right now, says the president has every right to deport Khalil. What does the president do? The case is before at least two judges. The guy in New York wants to switch it to New Jersey. So let's say he does. And the New Jersey judge decides that, yeah, despite the fact that he's a non-citizen and despite the fact that he supported a terrorist group, he's still entitled to more due process than he got. And therefore, bring him back to New Jersey so we can have a trial. So he issues that order. Meanwhile, the judge in Louisiana hears the same facts and says, no. The court has no right to intervene in this. The president acted properly and constitutionally. In fact, it would be unconstitutional for the court to intervene. Therefore, you can send him away. So, if you're the president's counsel, what do you advise the president to do?
Well, Mayor, I don't know. What would you advise the president to do?
I'd advise the president to go to the Supreme Court and not just. I know what you want me to say is just listen to the Louisiana court. It's too big an issue that will affect the country. It isn't just about Khalil. It's about 3 million more people that have to be gotten rid of like this.
Right.
I would say discretion is the better part of valor. It's like when you have 2 circuit courts disagreeing, the Supreme Court very often takes the case.
Right.
Make an emergency application to the Supreme Court saying this is pretty much an unprecedented decision. It raises several issues that you really should decide. Now, one of which you should decide is that it's unconstitutional for a court to issue an opinion beyond its jurisdiction. So really, the guys in Louisiana, the Louisiana court should prevail. But in any event, there's also a question who's right on the law. And only the Supreme Court can decide that. And I think he would gain a lot that he might have lost in terms of just diplomacy with the court when he talked about impeachment. I think he was right as hell about impeachment. And I think judges should not be immune to. Judges should be criticized like everyone else. There's nothing special about a judge. And the idea that you're influencing their decision, well, I mean, you shouldn't. We shouldn't appoint people who are going to be influenced by that. Right. And we shouldn't give them. Why are we giving them lifetime appointments? We give them lifetime appointments so they can be secure in their position. And what are you going to say? We can't criticize politicians because now it is one thing to threaten them. We let Schumer threaten them.
Like the Democrats do.
We let Schumer threaten them and not go to jail.
Right.
But you can't raise an opinion that they should be impeached. I mean, impeachment is not killing them. Impeachment is a legal proceeding. It's in the Constitution. 15 of them have been impeached.
He's simply saying they should be removed by the way that we allow to remove judges.
And like everybody else, judges should be held accountable. So the judge says, well, they should be held accountable by reversal. Yeah, that's if they make a legal error. But if they act deliberately unconstitutionally, don't you have a right to ask for a stronger remedy? We certainly have a right to ask for it in America. Roberts intervening when he didn't intervene in so many situations where judges have acted completely unlawfully against Trump and against me and against all of us is really very hard to take.
Right.
Phony as hell.
Right.
But now,
like
I am going to tell you that as a lawyer, if I were his lawyer at the time, if I could have, I would have told him, don't say it, because they're going to hold it against you. Not all of them are what they should be. Meaning, you should be able to. Well, we watched it. You saw how prejudiced the judges were.
And I got to say,
how about
you? You didn't back down.
Well, of course not. I knew it wouldn't help me.
It
wouldn't help me to back down.
I wish we had.
Judge Lyman.
Now you're bringing them back. Oh,
Judge Lyman never even listened to our argument. It was like insulting.
I took good notes in those days.
We finished the case. He immediately reached in and pulled out his opinion, which he had to have written the night before.
It's like I have a sketch comedy. He left for 2 minutes, came back.
The whole day of that whole day of trial was a complete charade. Meaning he made a charade of the whole case, and if the Second Circuit had any guts, they just reversed it out of hand. And if Judge Roberts wants to intervene, why the hell didn't he intervene when American citizens were being held without bail on the most specious charges? I mean, you could watch it on television. The cops are inviting people in, and these people are going to jail because some of them acted improperly. By the way, doing nothing nearly as bad as all the people during the summer who were beating the crap out of cops, injuring them and killing them,
the summer
and burning
love.
places down, and none of them went to jail.
Mostly peaceful protesters.
Wow. Well, just in case you need an example, 2 Mexican nationals are facing deportation after allegedly molesting a 14-year-old boy on a U.S.-bound Royal Caribbean cruise ship. And one of them is revealed to be HIV positive. Ricardo Daniel Mondragon Leal, 37, and Jose Prudencio Diaz were arrested Friday on board Miami-bound ship Independence of the Seas after this reported sexual assault was discovered. The men allegedly entered a sauna where the teen who didn't know them was hanging out, and they began exposing themselves and then molesting him. Diaz was later revealed to be HIV positive. This is one of thousands and thousands and thousands of cases of these people who would never be in the United States if you hadn't voted for Joe Biden, destroying a kid. Oh, and we better not send him to El Salvador. We want to keep him around so he can have no bail. He could be running around the streets. Picked up 9 in Boston the other day. All of them molesters out, either on very low bail or no bail. All of them illegals. but they're out. You see, you don't understand. In a lot of America, probably not Florida, if these guys aren't thrown out, they can be walking around the streets in a day or two. Apparently, the liberal judges don't want to interfere with their right to rape. There must be a right to rape if they let you out to do it. Or are they too stupid to realize the people that do this do it repetitively?
Wow.
Oh, but these people are mostly very law-abiding. Did you watch them coming over? Did you see the people coming over? There are millions of those that came over. A lot of them you never got to see. You know why you never got to see them? Because we never got to see them. Because at least half as many as came in that we got to see came in and we didn't get to see. And probably the ones we didn't get to see are worse than the ones we got to see, because that's why we didn't get to see them. Oh, but that makes too much sense. That can't be true. That makes too much sense. So, do you know that Joe Rogan won't go to an upcoming fight? He likes fights because it's in Canada. He's boycotting Canada. And he said he'd rather go to Russia. What do you think? You think we should boycott Canada?
No.
Wait. I think that we need to forge a very strong relationship, as has historically been with Canada. I love Canada.
Full disclosure, Mayor, you're with two Michiganders. You know, we're very close to
I have Canadian family.
Canadian family.
Logan called Canada's government terrible, and its people are awesome.
Yes, bingo. That's it.
Yep.
That's what
very
we go-
funny people. Canadians are funny. You laugh a lot.
And welcoming and pretty open, like for the most part.
I have nothing against it.
Yeah, friendly.
It's like the people in Ukraine. They're wonderful people, and it's been since 1991, one corrupt government after the other, one corrupt government after the other, and that doesn't make Russia right either.
Right.
Russia is still, not Russia, but Putin. Putin has been a tyrant, a barbarian in the way he's dealt with them. But that doesn't make them honest either. Just because they are the victims of a terrible tyrant doesn't mean their government is honest or useful. Their government, left to its own devices, does plenty of damage to them. Without Putin, it steals all their money and lets them starve.
Yes.
And it's been doing it since it became a free government. So I don't know about all this stuff about being in NATO and whatever. You're supposed to reach certain standards to be in NATO.
Yeah.
You can't be a government of oligarchs stealing money left and right. Well, that may be too logical. Right?
Right. 100%. It's like.
So how did the Red Sox do?
Red Sox.
Before we get off.
Red Sox won.
Go Sox.
Maria.
Go Sox.
The Red Sox went down to Texas and come away with a.
Red Sox beat the Rangers.
Was it at Fenway Park?
It was not.
No, it wasn't.
Red Sox won. They beat the Texas Rangers. 2 home runs from Wilyer Abreu.
Yeah.
Is that Bobby Abreu's son?
Makes you wonder. I was just thinking that when I saw Abreu.
The way Major League Baseball acted with BLM, like, I gotta get back into baseball.
I know. You too. I know. But we got to try.
Bobby
What
Abreu.
do they do with the Bureau of Land Management?
Bobby Abreu. It is. It was Bobby Abreu. You're right. You're right. And the Detroit Tigers.
A lot of their sons are getting into baseball now.
You notice that?
They got a lot of good ones too. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it stands to reason there'd be genetic. A lot of it will be passed along in the genes to certain offspring, right?
Right.
Genes are very, very chaotic and very arbitrary. So, some kid could have a great pianist for a father and wouldn't have any talent for the piano at all. And then all of a sudden, another one can have all of them, or 3 generations.
Or they skip. Sometimes they skip.
They can skip a lot of generations.
Yep.
It's also why a lot of these DNA tests are completely crazy about origins, because they'll go they'll make you like half, but Maria has a very good friend that believes she's all Greek. Mother, father, grandfather, grandfather. And it turned out she was 47% Italian.
Well, yeah, but that's close.
47% Italian.
Well, yeah,
two
but
generations.
Yeah, but it's like on a globe. It's like 2 inches away.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
but the DNA goes.
Yeah,
the DNA, Dr. Maria. Well, Italy has a lot of overlap with, but I think the DNA goes way back to when we were apes.
Dr. Maria's like looking at him like, what?
Mayor Giuliani, I am just like Pat Buchanan. You may be from an ape, sir, but
I wanted to say you because I wanted to get you back on the show before we get off because you always lift our ratings. Don't forget to listen to her on
Lindell TV.
9 p.m.
LindellTV.com.
What days?
Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah, and then she's always very, very good. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So that's tomorrow night. So when we finish, you're going to watch Dr. Maria, okay? And you're going to be back tomorrow on Lindell TV at 7, right?
Right.
Because who knows what we're going to have to report. Things are going so nuts. But it is a very exciting time. You're witnessing history. All of this, even legal stuff, this is the last line of defense the Democrats have left. And the thing that's terrible it shows you how terribly they've corrupted the courts. And I don't mind this. I mind it, but I don't mind it as bad as on the criminal side, where they take people's liberty away and they're innocent. That's unforgivable. Unforgivable. And it's unforgivable if the court hasn't done more to try to fix it. When this big mouth Roberts gets all upset about impeachment, what he really should be getting all upset about is how so many judges conspired to put innocent people in jail. For that, they should go to jail, not just impeachment. So on that wonderful note, and on the very happy note that the Yankees won, which probably doesn't make all of you happy, but at least here we have Maria happy. And I guess we're going to have to check on the Tigers too, huh?
Tigers are down 5-4.
Well, that's okay.
Against the Dodgers, top of the 8th. Last I checked.
Well, I'm rooting for them. I'll root for them against the Dodgers.
Brooklyn Dodgers. You were Mr. Yankee growing up in the heart of Dodger country.
Look how they embarrassed us last year.
Ah, that's right. Man, time is flying.
It's recent.
Yesterday. We were trying to watch the game. I remember we were in New York.
It's recent history. And this show started as a baseball show. America's
right. That's why we focus a little bit.
People don't remember that. It was our brilliant color commentary.
We got to pull some of that up. You were wearing that was November of 22, October of 22.
We were pretending to be Ronald Reagan covering the Chicago Cubs.
Oh, you got to tell the Reagan story. That's so. What would Ronald Reagan do back in the day?
When Ronald Reagan used to cover it for radio in Iowa, so he would get it. He would get a feed, from the ticker tape, tick, and it would tell the ticker tape would say, so and so was at bat. Pitchers, so he would recreate the whole thing, and then they had sound effects that he would press. Pitcher winds up, ball 1. Back to the pitcher. Pitcher checking the man on first, goes into stretch, ball 2. Then all of a sudden the ticker would go out, so they weren't getting anything. So he said if it was a short one, they'd do a couple of extra foul balls. Then when they became like 12 or 13 foul balls, it started to get a little ridiculous. Then they would do technical difficulties. But if they didn't have to do that and they could cover it, they would then quickly catch you up. He said, you never heard baseball go so fast. Ball 1, ball 2, strike 2, then he's back there. He told me that story and also 18 or 19 of his recent appointees the morning that he was shot. So I will never forget it. So let's pray. Let's thank God for having given us the very, very often when it gets really bad, the right president. A couple of times he stuck us with some real losers like Biden, but he made up. Yeah, you're right. The devil did do it. I believe that, actually. I think the bad things emerge from Satan, like Karl Marx, who was a Satanist. Tomorrow night, don't forget, Lindell TV, X, 7, for the Rudy Giuliani show, then back here. At 8, it's Friday. We always have a great show on Friday. Try to wrap up what happened this week and kind of predict what's going to happen next week. If you can do that, you're really good, because everything changes. But I am so excited that we're living through a time of massive change for this country. I mean, this is the equivalent of the beginning of the New Deal. And it's going to have that kind of impact on this country. We're making a major shift in the dynamics of this country. But the fact is, you're going to be very comfortable with where it ends up, because where it ends up is where it was supposed to be and where it's been when it's been most successful. A country with as little government as possible, as much individual enterprise as possible, and as much reward for the people that work the hardest, and a really strong, effective, reasonable, so that you can maintain its safety net. And a country that dominates the world, not because we're bullies, but because we're the most humane, most decent, and most civilized nation on earth. And it's the only way to keep the world that way. So God bless the United States. Pray for all the countries where war is going on, particularly Ukraine, Israel, and Iran. And God, thank you very, very much for looking down on us. God bless America.
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. It was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common